Welcome to episode 205 of Wealth Talk. My name is Christian Rodwell, the Membership Director for WealthBuilders, joined today by our founder, Mr. Kevin Whelan. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Chris. Got your teeth in, all right?
Yeah, I know. Just about. So here we are, slap bang in the middle of summer, but still delivering content, still delivering value. And in fact, there's a bit of an anniversary that we're celebrating on this episode as well.
Yeah, definitely not mine, but I think the number 50 should play a big role in our conversation today, Chris. I've been thinking about that. Always like to have a little bit of a theme for our podcast. And it must be 50 years since Newcastle United won anything. And anyhow, I just up there for a few days, took the family up there, and we watched a couple of games there where we were playing sort of a international friendly tournament, and we played in America as well. So we came out of whatever it was now, 6 games, unbeaten, 4 wins.
Not a bad start.
Yeah, and then they'll lose to in the first game 4-0 or something,
Yes.
So it's just the way it is. But it made me laugh because when you go to Newcastle and have a look around, it's completely full of women wearing almost nothing. Now, that isn't the point. The point is many of them are celebrating Big Star, what they call the Big 5-0. So you've heard of the program Hawaii 5-0, right?
Sure have.
It's a big one. Well, in Geordie land, they call it Hawaii 5-0. And they all go out in their next to nothing finery and celebrate by going kind of club to club. So it was funny watching what they get up to. It's just quite a weird place. It's the only place in the world I think I've ever been where it could be -5 and everybody's still wearing almost nothing.
Yeah.
It's just a weird place, but I love it.
Yeah, and you love the time bridge, and that could be the bridge to our other 50.
Oh, thanks for moving me on. I feel like you're stopping an old man from rambling.
No, continue to talk about the tune as long as you like.
Yeah, better than talking about Fulham, I suppose. Anyway, I'm having a good time, obviously, but something I heard just a couple of weeks ago made my blood completely boil, right? I was astounded, horrified to learn that the current Chancellor, in his Mansion House speech, which he does every summer, has created a pact. Can you believe? A pact, a money-making pact that allows the top 9 insurance companies, the big ones, Viva, Legal and General, Scottish Widows, and more. They've all kind of got together and made a decision on our behalf. And the decision they've made is to change the default holding. So most people who don't pay much attention to their pension during a workplace pension, they get allocated into a fund, unless they choose otherwise, called the default fund. So default is for people who are not paying attention. Now, we don't think that's a good idea at WealthBuilders. We believe you must pay attention. However, the vast majority of people, we know, 95%, don't pay attention. This default fund is now going to have an automatic allocation of up to 5% in startup tech funds, without you being able to choose whether you like it or not. Now, that might not sound like a bad thing, right? Oh, well, yeah, we're all interested in tech startups and we all want to. Yeah, but the purpose of investing for retirement is to create certainty. Most tech companies don't work. Most tech companies fail. But more importantly, why would the big insurers get involved? Well, they charge more money. They charge higher fees for the management of those things. So by default, without knowing a thing, the vast majority of people are going to have riskier funds, higher charging funds, which means more of their money is being paid away to somebody else's wealth, the shareholders of the big insurers, let's say, and they're not going to have anything they can do to change that unless they know more and get involved. Of course, we want to encourage that, don't we? We want people not to default. not to automatically opt for something, which is another thing. Maybe I've ranted about this before, Chris. So if you've got a pension and you're listening and you're in the UK, check out whether you're in the default fund, or even worse, if you're in something called a lifestyle fund, where each year you're moved increasingly from equities into cash, which means by the time you're 55, you're pretty much exclusively in the lowest risk investments or cash, which again sounds like a reasonable bet, doesn't it? Well, why wouldn't I want to take less risk as I get towards retirement? Yeah, but the point is, you've got to manage then a life from, say, 55 or 60 till you're 85 or 90. You can't do that if the money's just in cash. So the idea behind the lifestyle fund is that people will buy an annuity. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with annuities. I mean, there are pros and cons of all investments. Like if you buy an annuity, you've given up all your cash. You give away all your capital to an insurer. It's a bit like a life insurance policy turned upside down. What I mean by that is with a life insurance policy, you pay a small premium to an insurance company, and if you die, they give you a lump sum. An annuity, you give them a lump sum and they give you a small premium back, taxable income. And of course, interest rates have been incredibly low over recent years. They've picked back up again. And there are many reasons why people might consider some of their money as an annuity, but all of your money by default to an annuity, where you lose flexibility and lose a legacy. And we talk a lot, don't we, about preserving and protecting the valuable assets we build in our lifestyle for the next generation. A default annuity means you're not. So I'm not saying here on this podcast what's good, what's bad, what's indifferent. I'm saying you should know what you think and make a decision whether you should go for default lifestyle without any involvement or understanding of how your money is being treated. And whose money is it anyway? Yeah, it really gets me going, that one. Anyway, here's my thought, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
We do, at WealthBuilders, for our members, we do something called a score report. Not like the football score, we won 4-0 against Villarreal, for example. It's not that. It's 5 things. SCORE. S stands for a statement of your likely benefits based on what you're doing. In other words, what are you likely going to get in retirement? So C, what are your charges? What are you actually paying? What's the transparent number on your charges? Oh, what options have I got? Am I in the default fund? Am I in the lifestyle fund? What funds can I choose so I can get more involved if I want to? Oh, what are my retirement options? Do I have a choice? There's 2015 government brought in incredible flexibility. And E, have I made an expression of wish so that if I die, the pension fund goes to who I want to, my loved ones, people I care about, completely free of inheritance tax? Score. And what I propose to do, Chris, is extend this to our podcast listeners. 50 people. Yeah, matches the theme of today.
Mm-hmm.
50.
Nice.
If no more than that, because we normally charge them out at 295. That's quite a bit of work to do. But I'll offer 50 for free for the first 50 people who email and contact us about that. And we'll obviously need to know what kind of pensions they are. I hasten to say, this is not advice. This is not going to lead to advice. It's going to lead to awareness. Because awareness gives clarity on then where do you go next? And that's not for me to say. But I'll give away 50 score reports, Chris. So where would people go for that?
That's very kind. Yes. So I would say the easiest way would be to drop us an email, hello@wealthbuilders.co.uk, and pop the word score in the subject line. And then we'll have our team look out for those. And the first 50 people will be the lucky winners.
Yeah, fair enough. And, if we find somebody's not got a pension, they wanted a score report, but just weren't eligible for one, like they've got a workplace pension, like a final salary pension, we'll extend it to more. So, we'll probably accept 75, say, knowing that some people won't be eligible for that. But everything about pensions, Chris, it's all about awareness. It's all about getting a sense, doing a stock take on where you are and working out what you're likely to get. Most people have never done that calculation. It's not like going on a foreign trip and you don't know what the exchange rate is between your currency and the currency of retirement. You just don't know what's going on. And I'd like to bring a little bit more awareness to people, because look, 95% of the population we know don't make it because they rely enough. But at least if you can improve it, it's better than nothing, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Well, we've titled this podcast Pensioner Millionaire by 50, Pension Millionaire. Yes. So I guess, people will be curious as to what is this magic formula, Kevin?
Well, the magic formula is it's an issue where if you think about what's likely to generate an income or a pension fund worth £1 million for someone aged 50. And the big dynamic, the big piece of leverage that's involved in that is time. So I guess if you're the podcast listener, it's not you. It's going to be your children, your grandchildren. So stated differently, if you, like I've told this story before, haven't I, about setting up and I'll only do again on the families program, talk more about what you can do for your kids with junior ISAs and junior SIPs and junior stakeholders, all the sorts of things that you can give your next generation or your grandchildren, get them really set up for life. And I think if you can set them up for life for a small cost, and if you were to take out a pension, which you can, any child can have a pension, they don't have to be 18 or anything, more of the age in a minute. You can pay up to £3,600 gross a year. So take the tax relief off that, because even babies get tax relief. So if you started a pension and you paid in 240 quid a month for your child or your grandchild or a niece or a nephew, and you set that running and you had enough money for it to run until they were 50, as the stock market just performs what it does on average with booms and busts around about 6%, they'd be pension millionaires by 50 for 240 quid a month. Now, I'm not saying 240 quid a month is a small sum of money. It's not. But if you're in a financial position where that's something you can do for your children or somebody you care about or your grandchildren like me, then it's the grandparents actually, probably not listening to this podcast, but you could tell your granddad or grandma about this, couldn't you? And say, would you like to make little Johnny, little Jenny pension millionaires by 50? Can you spare 240 quid a month? Which, by the way, if you pay that out of your income, would be inheritance tax free as well. We covered that a few podcasts ago. Then even if they didn't take that much interest in wealth building and they didn't learn all the lessons we're trying to teach in Wealth Builders for families, they'd still be millionaires by the time they're 50. And I think that's a valuable lesson, that children have got time. Most other people don't have time. And when you don't have time to be the piece of leverage, you have to get involved to improve the return more than 6%. And you can only do that by discovering the more wealth building pillars or the more wealth building entrepreneurial ways you can influence things, which is why, as you know, when it comes to the world of pensions, I'm a big fan of the SSAS pension. But before we talk about that, and the number 50 relates to that, it's usually about this time you do a review, Chris.
Yeah, it sure is. So let's not let our listeners down. Let's read out one of our latest reviews from Trustpilot. And we've had a review this week from Scott, who kindly says, a very informative introductory call with Gary Whelan, who explained SSAS in greater detail for me and how it wouldn't necessarily suit me at this time. He was also able to help unpack some questions I had about building wealth, investing, and limited companies. Overall, it felt Gary truly wanted to help, and I appreciate the genuine interest he showed. I will continue to listen to the podcasts, which are a great source of free information, and I will continue to follow Wealth Builders and use their services to help build a legacy for my family.
Very nice. And yes, there is another wheel in the frame. So I think Gary's name has come up before, wasn't it? So Gary's my younger brother who lives in Newcastle, and he shares the same ethics and integrity as I do, as that demonstrates there. And he's a SSAS expert, and I like the fact that he's embraced that expertise, because, you know, when I talk to people about SSAS, Chris, and for those people who've not heard that word before, that's the very problem right there, right? I mean, if you were going to win a marketing prize, you wouldn't choose the word SSAS, would you? So, but it's a creature of back in the 70s. I mean, it was the Finance Act 1970, if I recall it, Chris, that brought the whole pension into life, which basically was, the way I describe it, it's a family trust fund. But in order to be eligible for one, and who wouldn't want a family trust fund? Sounds so much sexier, doesn't it? I have a family trust fund. It's much better than got a SSAS. Don't know what a SSAS is, right? But it's a trust fund. All pensions are trust funds, but you can extend that to your wider family, up to a maximum of 11 people, which, okay, Kevin Whelan sounds like an Irish name. Definitely is. But I'm not an Irish family, so I don't have 11 people in it, but I've got 5 in my family. So that's easy. You can involve all 5 members of your family, as long as they're over 18. So this is the real opportunity then, that you can bring and involve your children and get them started on the pension ladder early with whatever sum of money you can afford, get tax relief before they even become taxpayers. And then when they're 18, they join you in a SSAS, provided you've got a business. Now, obviously, the gentleman there who did the review wasn't eligible. And that eligibility is normally they don't have a limited company yet. But most of our Wealth Builder members, Chris, at some time create a limited company because they see the benefit of the tax reliefs and the tax benefits that having a limited company can bring. And some even set up limited companies with their children, don't they? And they create mini entrepreneurs or young entrepreneurs, and more of that in the Wealth Builders for Families program. And I'm definitely looking to be sponsoring or giving scholarships to young entrepreneurs. So again, if you've got a young entrepreneur in the family, and you know they're burgeoning their ideas, then you know we could give them a shout out. We could give them a podcast representation, a guesting, if you like. And where would people tell us about that, Chris?
Well, definitely you can get on the wait list for the families program that we're putting together. So head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/families and leave us your name and email, and we'll keep you updated, or just stay tuned over the coming weeks, because we'll have lots of exciting updates regarding the families coming up.
Okay. And if they've got a particular story about a young entrepreneur,
just
put that
get in touch. Yeah, drop us an email. Hello at Wealth Builders. It's always the best place. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So anyway, SSAS then, first SSAS was done in 1973, 50 years old.
Right.
The SSASs are 50 years old. When I talk to people about, you can get tax relief, you can invest in property, you can invest in business, you can invest in gold, you can invest in the stock market at a discount because you don't need to pay an advisor. You can buy cryptocurrency. You could do commercial to residential conversions. You can do so many different things. You can buy gold bullion. You can do so many things that float your boat, that reflect your values, your wishes, your preferences. If you can do that, why would you not do that rather than go to a default fund and be completely out of control for the rest of your life and hope and pray that you've got enough money in your pot to live to 85 or 90, or your kids to 100? Get them involved early. So by having a SSAS, you can bring them in to the SSAS at 18 and teach them things. You don't have to get them involved specifically. You could get them involved before that. You could say, hey, as a family, we've got a family trust fund. You're not eligible to join until you're 18. But if we gave you £10,000, £20,000, whatever, to think about what you would do with that to help grow the family's wealth, what would you do? And then you've got a little project, haven't you? You've got a little something that gets people involved. Because one of the biggest issues I'm discovering, Chris, about the difference between smart and savvy kids and entitled ones are the ones who own something and take responsibility and feel part of something are much more likely to be the smart, savvy ones. And the ones who just expect that everything is going to be done for them will become the entitled ones. Now, it's not my place to say whose kids are whose, and I'm not trying to be a parenting guru of any kind. But I would say that the more you can encourage younger ones to get involved and make decisions and make mistakes, of course, the more they'll be able to make good decisions when they're grown-ups. And that's really, at the end of the day, what we want, isn't it? Financially savvy, responsible, people making good decisions, not bad ones. There are so many dangers I've highlighted before that are out there to catch them, little traps. And sometimes we're the cause of those things by giving things because they don't see what's behind it. For example, people know you go to work but don't see the work you do. Well, you could change that. They know you earn money, but they don't see how that money gets taxed and where that money goes and what your thoughts are. So share that. So these are just some of the points that, you don't want your kids being 50 and poor. You want to get them to 50 and be completely set for life, if not before, because of the good work you do in building your own family wealth plan, of which I think SSAS is a linchpin in that entire process because of all the tax breaks and inheritance tax-free, capital gains tax-free, income tax-free, national insurance free, corporation tax-free, a frictionless pension that allows you to maximize the return and mitigate the risks in ways that other pensions don't allow. So, yeah, I'm a big fan. Now, I haven't had a SSAS for 50 years before you ask, you cheeky person. I've had a SSAS for about 13 years now. But I absolutely love my SSAS, and I encourage anybody to look into it. Whether you look into it with our help or externally, that's not my issue. If the tide of more people owning SSASs rises, then that's going to benefit more families, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah, no, that's great. So really, we're kind of talking about different steps and stages as children grow up and different things that you can be doing from a very, very early age, as you say, almost, as soon as they're born, just getting some contributions going. And then as they grow up, start to share some of that wisdom. And of course, this is very much what we're doing now, age appropriate content that we're building out as part of the Families Program, which we'll be sharing more of over the coming weeks and months.
Yes, and I've been spending all day today just doing that very thing, Chris. So, yeah, you caught me kind of mid-content writing and video curating. And again, if you've got a great book you've read or a great lesson you want to share, or as I said earlier on, you've got a young entrepreneur in the midst or one in the making, then we'd definitely like to know about that because we're curating the content. We're not owning the content. We're trying to be the best librarians we can to kind of get rid of all the nonsense and stuff that's out there that you could just simply consume. But it's that combination of education plus support, plus connections, plus community, plus events, plus that we're trying to grow into 50,000 people filling St. James's Park, all being happy families. How about that?
Sounds good. Sounds good. So we've got lots of free content available already, Kevin. Of course, listeners can go to our website, wealthbuilders.co.uk, and we've got some pre-recorded webinars there about SSAS pensions, about the wider holistic 7 pillars, of course, that we help our members with. And and SIP versus SSAS as well, which
that's a big one.
Is also a common question we get asked, isn't it?
A lot. And in fact, without SSASs, we've never had SIPs. I mean, SIPs only came in 1990. So SSAS has been around a lot longer. but it was the ineligibility of people who couldn't qualify for SSAS that made the chancellor of the day create SIPs. That was in 1990. But SIPs proliferated, mostly because the SIP companies control what you invest in. You know, it's sort of almost like a pretend SSAS. It's not really a lot of flexibility, not in most SIPs. Most SIPs are very heavily restricted. But SSAS gives that incredible flexibility. But with that flexibility comes responsibility, Chris. So I'm not saying everybody should get a SSAS. And you heard from that review, obviously Gary had a conversation with that gentleman and said, not sure it's a good fit for you. And we continually do that just to make sure that SSAS is only going to be fit for purpose for someone who's fit to run it. In other words, make decisions, understand the risks, and be willing to learn a bit more than the average person knows about a pension.
Yeah. And we open up several slots every week, don't we, Kevin, for anyone listening who just wants to have a chat about their pensions, you know, maybe find out a little bit more about SSAS and see what's the right fit for them. And if you'd like to book a call with one of our team, head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/discovery call and book yourself in. And we'd love to chat to you. Yeah,
or just avail yourself of one of the 50 free score reports if you don't fancy a chat just yet. That's really no problem. I think people realize by now we take our time, not 50 years. We would like people to make a decision in 60 months because it takes about 60 months to be financially independent, doesn't it? So 5 years. So whether it's 5 or 50, you can make it. Set a pension up for a youngster, do them a favor. They'll be pension millionaires by 50, or get stuck into your own plan and you'll be financially set for life within 5 years. Anyway, people will.
Well, there we go. Well, we better go and put the party hats on and grab a slice of cake to celebrate this big anniversary. And hope you've enjoyed listening today. Don't forget to drop us an email in, hello@wealthbuilders.co.uk if you'd like to grab one of those score reports. And Kevin, we will catch up same time, same place next week.
Yes, we will indeed, my friend. Until then, see ya.